Hello! Well, let's see what happens when I move to this village. Okay, that's kind of... I don't know if I'll be using that squad, but for the sake of completion. Also, I'm happy to see that no more enemy reinforcements are on the way. In the meantime, Ryoko is in a deathmatch with this particular enemy. And this is a good indication of why teamwork is normally great. Also, those legs that are on fire, no big deal. It's only the knees. I bet they don't do anything. I'm not sure what exactly triggers the behavior that we're about to see, but for a unit like this, well, like Ryoko's in particular, yeah, they pulled the unit back immediately after firing off the skill, which, well... Actually, I thought they were setting up to fire when that happened, but whatever. Of course, I've done that plenty of times, but usually with recon, not shooters. So now that they're charged up, of course, my squad knows exactly when they're moving forward, which is a nice cue for me. Also, when I noticed this behavior, I should have taken more time to charge up my shot before they threw their grenade and then backed off again. Well, something to remember for the future. I mean, I load pretty fast, so it was pretty reasonable to think that I might have 2 strikes, but... well, live and learn. Yeah, I don't think my infantry's rifles are going to bother them much. Now, here's a less excusable instance, because I saw that I had several seconds to aim and could probably get a few more points of damage out of this. Also, I'm kind of irritated that the animation of those guys dramatically waving and pointing before they fired stopped them from actually shooting the enemy. Well, now that the village is actually taken, there's really no reason to worry. Ippei can definitely hold out against this sort of thing. He has quite a few maximum attacks left as well, so the 4-leg AFW is no problem at all. So, how's your day been? Mine's been okay. Kinda wrestling with learning some SQL, very basic stuff. Moving to the lookout as a way to get some space, I feel like it's a good move because destroyed lookouts don't delay your next turn very much, and they're pretty decent terrain for the enemy, and I mean, it's better than ending turns in the woods, that's for sure. One step, 2 steps, 3 steps is what it takes. I kinda like it when some of the best special moves are the least flashy. That's just something that appeals to me. Well, this sequence here, where the enemy is almost wiped out and most of the difficult part is over, I assume this is why Fire Emblem puts a boss towards the end of every map, so that the latter part of a particular battle doesn't feel like it's super easy or boring. I've seen this sort of problem in other kinds of games too, especially more grand strategy kinds of things where if the... well, okay, this especially applies for when you're fighting multiple AI opponents, but when, say, you do your first really big step forward, like your first conquest or your first eliminating another opponent, the resources you get from it put you ahead of everyone else because, well, usually CPU nations don't really conquer each other that fast. And this puts you in an upward spiral. Now, I've seen some games remedy this by having everyone ally against you once you start to pull ahead. Also, ouch. I should have been paying attention to that. Considering that I have wire, it might have been okay to attack from short range instead and not have to deal with the shrapnel. I mean, it's true that Weizsäcker will have plenty of time to hang back and recover after this. I'm thinking about future best practices here. Also, I'm pulling the supply back not because they're the most vulnerable to the enemy shrapnel, that would be the shooters, but because I'll definitely want a second wire in this battle. Well, assuming that the enemy lives through it. Actually, if I kept my supply units forward, I might have done enough damage to prevent the second shrapnel. I hadn't even thought about that. But then I don't really have a really good feel for how much damage a particular shooter volley will do. And that's a problem I really have to fix. I didn't even realize that until just a few seconds ago. Okay. Well, I have plenty of previous video footage to use as evidence for what kind of damage I can expect against what kind of armor. Okay then, I guess I have homework. So, viewers at... well, I assume you're at home, but maybe you're watching this on a mobile device somewhere. Seems unlikely, but whatever. Viewers, have you ever seen your own gameplay or just taken a little step back after, I don't know, some kind of mission or whatever it is you play and think, oh wait, I need to do more research on this? Now, if you're one particular viewer of mine who plays Armored Core, the answer is probably yes. In fact, it's almost certainly yes, because it seems like that kind of game. But the feeling I get from that is, of course, very different from having to do homework on non-game things. But I guess if you enjoy what you're studying to do for a living, or just if you're later in life you just take some enjoyment of learning more about what you do for a living, I guess the feeling is kind of the same. Like, oh hey, there's this new thing I can learn. As opposed to, oh, there's this new thing I have to learn. I think the former response is the kind of thing that leads people to become... I'm trying to come up with a word for this that isn't overly dramatic, but I feel like the people who are best at that subject are the kind of people who have that reaction. Like, it's a lot easier to just put in the time and the extra effort that might be tedious on its own if it's a topic that you have some legit passion for. So, Ryoko will have no trouble catching up with that rival of hers, because its legs took a hit too, so it won't be able to outrun her on the tactical map. I was going to say strategic map, but that sounds more like a map of all of North Japan. Now both, well actually every unit in their setup is not too durable, so throwing out some shrapnel seems like a reasonably good idea. The reason I don't throw special shells like that out a whole lot against some of the more durable squad types is well, those shells are really limited, of course. That's the point. And if I'm not careful and I throw something out against medics with smoke shot or some similar disadvantage, I could use my shells up and still not remove both squads. Also, if this works out, I can remove both of their squads and deal good damage to their AFW with my mechanics. Oh, wow, okay. That's okay, I thought that shrapnel just used a normal attack against both squads, which, under the right circumstances, would be plenty powerful on its own. Apparently this gets an attack boost. Or something. Maybe its base power is higher? I have no idea. Regardless, Daybreak... Oh, wow, look at that hit. Look at both of those hits. Seriously? My recon did 25 damage with a normal shot? That's the damage that some skills do. I've seen Snipe deal around that much. And And yes, that 17 damage was again a pistol hit. I guess that's an example of just how far things can go if you have a light AFW get to close combat range against a 4-leg. It's almost worse than getting punched by an anti-AFW because they have the entire battle to deal out huge amount of punishments with squads like that. Too bad it's such a specialized matchup, but... well, I mean, all kinds of matchups are gonna happen in this game, and it helps to know about all of them, I guess. Okay, the main point of moving them ahead right away is so that my infantry can shoot before the enemy gets to use its skill. Now if I had just left things up to my infantry and aimed at their AFW, it wouldn't have worked, but hey. No need to worry about that at this point, I guess. Now, I am at a damage disadvantage here. Sort of. Not by a huge amount, but... if I get unlucky and the enemy lands all of their shots, which could happen, I mean, anything can happen, but... the usual disadvantage of that particular AFW type is that their gun, while powerful, is quite inaccurate. However, I'm also not so accurate because they have a terrain advantage. Main thing I have going for me is that I have squads on my side and they don't anymore. And of course, a timely shot like that to throw off their aim, very nice. Like that. That's exactly what I was talking about. Now, if I miss here, I still have plenty of possibilities. Which is good, because, well, that happened. Now, I could quickfire. Quickfire doesn't have a 100% hit rate, but I loaded another shell so I can use checkfire, which does. Excuse me. Checkfire is one of those kind of niche skills that, well, especially for someone like Ryoko, I don't use except in very specific situations such as that one. The main problem with it is that unlike aim weapon, it doesn't take its full effect on the first hit. To completely immobilize someone, of course, you need to break their legs twice. And using 2 maximum attacks for something like that doesn't sit well with me. I still haven't had the chance to test to see whether it can prevent counterattacks if its inherent immobilizing thing is still active when you initiate on it. In fact, I haven't had much opportunity to play around with that period because yeah, Masami doesn't seem like he would be bothered nearly about as much with that as John is. And the reason I know that this is the case is because when I picked the answer, Masami didn't say yes but no, or well, you get the idea by now. If I kind of like that if you pick an answer against his character, he kind of fights against it a little bit. Oh, that's no good. So, if I want green troops, I need to capture that harbor, but this enemy is in the way. That's still not something that's horribly inconvenient. I was thinking about ending the battle right there because, seriously, it's been going along for a long time. The real problem would be if they moved onto the harbor itself, and that would be troublesome. But as long as I can keep the foreleg kind of busy, this won't be a problem. And also, it's two anti-AFWs. What did you think was going to happen in this battle? Well, I guess we're getting to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching this. As always, I enjoyed making it, and I'll see you later.